cover reality TV from a mental health perspective. I was doing so much thinking this past weekend. I was thinking about where I am now compared to where I was at this time last year. December 2023. December 1st of 2023. I had just put in my letter of resignation at the job that I was in at that time. The current job that I'm in, I had a promise from this employer. Matter of fact, not just a promise, I had an offer from this employer that I was going to get this job. So I was so over the job that I was in at that time that I said, you know what? Even though there's going to be some time with the hiring process and the orientation and having to probably get my fingerprints, and because it's a hospital, background check, whatever it is, whatever the case may be, I said I can stand to have a few weeks, maybe like a few weeks without work, because the thing was I had some money saved, and also I was so burnt out because I worked right through all those years of my dad's illness. I was working and taking care of him, and it feels like that time just slipped me by because I wasn't really able to be fully present for him. I wasn't able to be present for myself because there was so much responsibility with the job. So I was like, I can afford like 2 to 3 weeks off. But then, as fate would have it, there was a hiring freeze. So, so because of said hiring freeze, 2 to 3 weeks actually became about 9 weeks. And we were going through the Christmas season, and I was traveling for the Christmas season. I left the job right before Christmas, and I had like Christmas shopping and things to do, and I took a trip, and my savings were just going down and going down and going down. So I was like, this is one of the most horrible times to actually ever leave a job. So here we are. Hi, Caleb. I think December, I don't know, 10? 6 is Friday, 7, 8. Yeah, I think we're December 10th today, right? So here we are. And I'm at this new job that I have been at since the beginning of this year up until now. Like last week of January up until now. And there's such a contrast between the me that they have gotten at this job versus the me that they got at the last job. And what I mean by that is, as much as you guys have heard me advocating, let's see this, bang, yeah, as much as you guys have heard me advocating for myself about the different goings on at this particular job, still, it's been light. There's been a lot of things that I'm dealing with at this job that they're not getting the full version of me. And I'll tell you why. There's a reason for that. We got the trolls in the building tonight. Not the trolls from the movie, the algorithm trolls that found this channel randomly, but that's okay. I like trolls. I don't let them speak or anything, but I read their comments once and then I block them. But anyways, yeah, the version of me I have become somebody over the past probably 4 years, because I was not always like this. I was the yes person in the job. It doesn't matter how they're treating me. It doesn't matter how they're speaking to me. If they say jump, I say how high. I was that person. And when I was that person, all my employers loved me. But the thing is, they loved me because they loved the fact that they could walk all over me. And who doesn't love that? People love someone who they can walk all over and make them do anything and make them bend and conform to their will. People are going to like that, especially in a job. And they're going to be like, good job, you're the best, A1, number one. I'll tell you what it didn't do for me. Raises, promotions. It didn't place me in any leadership positions. It just made them like me because they liked the fact that they could walk all over me. About 4 years ago is when I learned that there's more benefits to speaking up for yourself than not. The old conventional wisdom, like I said, that my folks, my grandparents, my aunties and uncles, and everybody that was around my circle raising me used to tell me is just do what you have to do. And especially my mom, that was her catchphrase. Well, you do what you have to do. You tolerate whatever. You're just there to get a paycheck, so you just grin and bear with it. That was her motto. That was her theme. And I understand that to an extent. And I especially understand that growing up in the workforce that she grew up in the early 80s, 90s, a little bit of the early 2000s. I'm just listing the times before I started working, because I started working in the early 2000s. So like the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, really. Back then, the goal was, it doesn't matter how your boss talks to you, how they treat you, whatever. You're just gonna get into that job and be there, do that thing, do it for 30, 40 years, however long it is it takes you until you can build up your pension and your retirement fund. You stay at one place for that amount of time and then you leave. And then I feel over time, companies started taking advantage of that and feeling like they could treat you any type of way for any type of pay. And you were just going to sit there. And then this generation, last generation, more so this generation, though, like Gen Z, kind of broke that mold to where they were like, well, if you treat me like trash, I'm going to leave. And I happened to encounter somebody who's younger than me, who's in a leadership spot, who acts like those old school bosses, but they're younger than me. I don't know if they were groomed that way by the people that they have ahead of them that put them in those positions, but I'm flabbergasted by the arrogance to think that you can do and say anything to anybody and they're just going to be like, okay, that is fine. That has never been me. The only reason why I have been here as long as I have been here was because while I was on the shelf for 2 months, I had worked for, I want to say, 10 to 12, maybe 11, 10 or 11 consecutive years that I had never been without a job. I've transferred to different jobs. We've gone from here to gone to there, but with not having a job completely, 10 to 11 years prior to last year. Then I went 2 months without a job. It's not that long, but it felt like super long, because 2 months without a job represented a span of maybe I get my paycheck so about 6 to 8 weeks without getting any form of paycheck. 6 to 8 weeks without getting any kind of paycheck. So it's a long time. So I said to myself, the next time I get a job, it doesn't matter what the job is, it doesn't matter how bad the job is, it doesn't matter what's happening at the job, unless the job, God forbid, happens to get rid of me, which has only happened once in my life and never in my professional life. When I say professional life, I mean my life since after getting my college degree. I've never been fired from a job since then. I was fired from one job before then, one job that was a close to minimum wage job. But yeah, I said unless the job gets rid of me, in terms of me personally, I'm committed to whatever that next opportunity I get for 1 year. And trust me, how many months in? 3 months, 4 months in, I was already reconsidering. But I just said to myself, it would be a bad look. It would be a bad look for me to actually just, okay, so I leave this other job and then I start this new one. And then if I'm going to try to get a different job, they're like, so you left your job, you came to this new job, you spent 4 months, and now you're looking for another one. So I said, I have to lock in to putting in this year. And honestly, I'm actually really proud of myself for the fact that I've endured so much, and I was still, and I'm here, like I'm actually at this year point. I'm weeks away from being at this year point. I haven't folded. There's been many things going on. There's been mediations that I've had to get done, all within the span of a year. There's been BS that I've had to deal with. There's been lies. There's just been being spoken down to. There's just been so many things that have gone on within this year. And when I say I'm proud, I don't even necessarily mean I'm proud with putting up with that, because I really wish that I didn't have to put up with that. I really do. But I'm proud of myself for making personal commitments. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing no matter what the job is, no matter what the circumstances are. I'm going to have that to put on my resume. 1 year at this company, at least. And I'm closing in on that year, and there's nothing that's going to stop me. Like, if I have put up with it for this long, I definitely can get that last few months in so that I can cross the finish line and head over to something else. And actually, December of 2020, I got a job in December of 2020. I got a job in December of 2023. And I don't know if I'm going to get a job in December of 2024, but I do that. They updated and refreshed my resume, and I started put it out there yesterday that I'm going to be getting some calls. Is it back on? It went off for a minute. I don't know if it's back on. One time I spoke for like 2 minutes and realized that it wasn't on. Okay. Yeah, so shoot. I feel like I had a point that I was getting to, Yeah, I mean, I locked into my commitment. That's one thing that my mom did instill in me that I will give her credit for. I mean, I'll give her credit for many things, even though we have different philosophies. I will for sure give her credit for many different things, but one of the biggest is never give anybody a word that you cannot keep. And I didn't give them my word that I was going to be there for X amount of time, because I will never do that. The way that employers have done me in the past, I will never do that. But personally, I had my own personal thing where I said, for a few reasons, I want to stick out this year. One of the reasons why is because this job that I'm doing now is, even though it's around the realm of what I was doing before, it's a completely different title. So it was different experience, and I'm aiming for, as long as I have to be in the workforce, I don't want to keep doing the same thing. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be in this workforce, I'm going to try different things and try to add different categories and skills to my resume so that I can start moving on up to do different other things. The other one was going last Christmas, last December, and some of January, just not having any money at all was hard and harsh. And it was the first time in years, like I said, a decade, that I had ever had that experience. So I was like, I don't want to experience that again. I will never again, until I have signed on the dotted line. Not even just signed on the dotted line. I feel like at this point, I have so much PTSD over that I would literally have to start the other job, and then give my 2 weeks, and then do both jobs for 2 weeks, like do my orientation if I could. Um, wow, I am doing the other job, and then when I'm sure that I'm in there like that, then leave the job. So I told myself, Mark, even if you are at your last leg with that place, find something else and secure the bag before you leave. And that's normally me, but I was so, I don't know, I was so upset. It was personal reasons. I overrode my logic of what I would normally do because of, oh man, it's hard to even get into this. But the day that I learned of my dad's passing was a Sunday. I was I was out, and it was like a Sunday afternoon. I got the call. Um, I called my mom because they hadn't been able to contact her. That's why they contacted me. Called her. She didn't answer. I eventually got a hold of her. Long story short, the two of us, I picked her up, and the two of us went over to the nursing home that he was in, his hospice care. We went, we saw him, we said a quick goodbye. And then from there, while we were there, as a matter of fact, either while we were there, or maybe after we left, I was like, if there's one thing I don't want to do, is to get into it with my boss over, oh, why aren't you at work? Because I'm like, make me if they argue with me over that instead of showing concern, which I knew would be the case, um, I'm going to be really pissed, and then it's going to cause me issues. So I said to myself, hi, Vicky. So I said to myself, let me tell them. So I got my phone out. I texted my boss, just letting you know my dad passed this time, this day, time, and I won't be at work this week. So you would think that if there was some kind of thing that made it so I have to be at work or some kind of requirement for me to be at work that week, after telling her that, she would tell me then, sorry for your loss. We got to figure such and such out. I'll explain why I'm saying this. She just said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. I understand. Family comes first. Condolences to you and your family. I'll talk to you next week." So I'm thinking that was that. So the Friday of that week, my mom asked me to go with her to go to the funeral home, pick out the caskets. So we get to the funeral home. We are walking in. Um, we're actually inside looking at different caskets. Which one are we gonna pick? My phone rings. I look down to see who's ringing, who's calling the phone, and I look and I see my boss's number on the phone. And I was thinking to myself, unless she really just felt bad for me or something and wanted to call me to give me her condolences or something, I don't know why this phone is ringing with her number, because I don't want to speak to her under any circumstances this week. So I step outside of the funeral home and go outside, and then I answer the phone. I'm like, hello? She's like, Mark, why aren't you at work? I don't understand what's going on. I was like, what? She said, such and such, some other supervisor from some other department sent you an email at 9 o'clock and it's 11:45 and you haven't responded. I was beside myself because I was deep into some grieving at that point. I was doing something I really did not want to do, to go with my mom and accompany her to pick out this casket. And I was like, this call was the worst possible thing that I could have gotten at that time. I said, excuse me? You know why I'm not at work? Because I told you on Sunday. I don't care about nobody's emails. I'm not at work because my dad died. So unless there's nothing important enough that you could be calling me about for you to be calling and telling me that I need to be at work. Why am I not at work and why am I not responding to an email? I'm not going to be at work and I'm not responding to anything. She says, "Oh, but the policy is that you only get 4 days of bereavement time for a parent." And I was like, okay, but I'm not coming to work. I couldn't even. Oh, it's only because I was there with my mom and I was doing something important. The fact that I didn't really go off on this lady, and I literally just told her I refuse to continue this conversation. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about on Monday. If my PTO has to be used for today, I don't care, but there's nothing. I'm not coming into work and I'm done with this phone call. That was it. I got off the phone. My mom saw me come back in. She said, "Why do you look like that?" I said, "Because my boss called me and asked me why I'm not responding to emails and why I'm not clocked into work." After telling her on Sunday that there was no possible way that I was going to be in this week. She either didn't care, she forgot, I don't know what happened, amnesia, but from there, I wanted to leave from there. I was like, I'm pretty much done with this place. And that was like either late April or early May when that happened. And then from there, I used I had some generous coworkers of mine donate me some of their PTO because there's a PTO donation at that particular job, and they gave me about 2 weeks. So I took about 2 more weeks, and then from there, I was like, when I came back, I really wanted to leave, but I couldn't because I was like, I don't want to leave without anything. And somehow I stayed for the next 6, 7 months after that, but I always knew that I wanted to leave. Always, 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 always knew that I was gonna leave. So from there, that's the reason why I ended up leaving in December before I secured the other job 100%, because mentally I was checked out from that day. I was so checked out from that day. It was Chiricity. It was very, very crazy. Rude is a nice way to put it. They lost their mind, bereavement, and then it goes into vacation time. This is what I'm saying. If there's anything, she could have shot me a text or something that says, hey, again, my condolences for your loss. I'm just making you aware that the bereavement policy is 4 days. I assume that's why you're still off on day 5, because you're still grieving. So I'm just making you aware. Matter of fact, I don't even think it should have happened on the 5th day. I think that probably hit me up on Thursday. Call me on Thursday, like, hey, Mark, how are you doing? There's a way to do it. Like, how you doing? How you feeling? I just want to know what you're going to be doing on Friday, because the bereavement policy only goes for Monday through Thursday. If you still need more time, it will have to come out of your PTO bank. So just let me know what you're planning to do. Like if the conversation had gone like that, I'm fine with it. But the conversation was, why aren't you at work? The conversation was aggressive, like, like, you're supposed to be at work. What's going on? It was in that kind of tone. So I knew from then I was going to be out. I was done with her, but I had to coexist with her. And a factor for that too is that in the mental state that I was in no kind of mental state to even apply and go through the process of applying for another job. So I was like, I'm gonna grin and bear it with this one until I have mentally recovered enough to now put myself in a position of being able to present myself well for another interview at a different company. And that took me about 7, 8 months to get to that space in which I'm talking about. But once I got there, someone pointed out to me yesterday, which is true. I have a 100% track record from 2018. Is it 2018? 2017 until now. This might sound crazy and it might not even sound true, but from 2017 until now, which is a span of 7 years, I've gotten offered a job by everywhere that I've interviewed at in a span of 7 years. Okay? And it's not everywhere that has given me an interview. Some places look over my resume and they don't even call me. But in terms of the ones that have called me and said, I would like to interview you, Mark, every single one of them in a span of 7 years has offered me a job. So I'm not even saying, obviously, that's not going to necessarily continue for the rest of my life, but it says a few things. My resume is impressive and my interview skills are good. So that combination of things usually gets me the offer. So Me staying here was not because I could not excel somewhere else or not because I couldn't find somewhere else. It's because I made a personal commitment to complete. I don't even think it was a year. I think I said to myself, I ideally would like to complete a year, but I said I'm going to do a minimum of 6 months. So I got to 6 months, like June, whatever, late June, early July of this year. And then from there, I was like, should I start looking? I was thinking about it. I spoke to a friend about it who kind of deterred me from doing that for after 6 months. They said a year would look better than six. And I was still thinking about it because there was an open position that I was a sure bet to actually be able to just leave and get into that spot. But I stayed, and then once it was like 8 months, 9 months, I said, okay, now I'm a few months past the 6 month point, so let me just lock in that year, lock in and get to that year, and then go from there. And I'm ready for 2025. I'm about ready to go. I was ready to go 20 minutes ago, but there's just so many things on my mind. I'm gonna wrap it up with this one though. Common sense would have been. Oh wait, let me go up. My work was so great. I lost my dad, then my cousin, like a brother, then a really good friend. All within a short period of time. Technically, only my dad qualified for bereavement, but they gave it all. It's great to have a good employer like that. You know what's so strange? With this company, in terms of like the work, the day to day of the job, one of the worst that I've ever been at. But in terms of personal aspect of it, when things go on in your personal life, like in my first 2 weeks, I think maybe 2 weeks after I started the job, my aunt passed away and she didn't qualify for the bereavement time. And the job actually allowed for me to go because the funeral took place in Michigan. So I actually had to just have time off to be able to go for that. So they allowed me to go while I was still in my probation period. So that was a solid. Anytime I need it for anything, they'd always say, "This is just insurance, family service." That's great. That's beautiful. Common sense would have been the first thing. Remember I spoke to one of my old managers about this thing, and she was like, "That's crazy to me," because she told me of a situation at her job, at our old job, as a matter of fact, because she was my manager, where one of her employees' father actually passed away, and the person gave her an amount of time that she was going to be off. She was using the max bereavement time, and then she used like an extra. She used an extra. I think they had 3 days of bereavement, and she was using the 2 days of her PTO, and like she was gonna just use the week. Then she didn't show up on Monday, but she didn't call. But instead of the manager being like, "Oh, why aren't you at work?" She was like, I assume that this person is going through a tough time. So she gave her a call and was just like, "I understand that you're probably still processing the loss of your father. Um, I know that you put in for 5 days, but I know that there's a lot going on with you. So like, give me a call back and we'll discuss when you're actually ready, and we can take care of whatever paperwork or whatever is necessary for the extra days from there. But, don't worry about the job right now. Just worry about being there with your family and for your family, etc. And she told me in that case with me, that's a similar way. If she was my manager, that's a similar way as to what she would do, how she would handle me. That manager, actually, best manager that I ever had in my life. I was so spoiled. Like, I talk about all these terrible managers that I've had. That one was A1 to the point that we became friends. Like, she was the best, the absolute best. I would kill to have another manager like that in my lifetime, but hasn't happened before and has not happened since. There was something else I was gonna say. Oh, there was one other thing I was gonna say and I lost my train of thought. Let's talk about the job, the bereavement time. Oh yeah, I remember now. So I started this off by saying that I was doing some thinking, heavy thinking over the weekend. And one of the things that I was thinking about is the fact that, so in 2022, 2021, 2020, basically from about 2013 through 2022, I was really aggressively going for all the things that I loved to do. It didn't matter whether I had a full-time job, a part-time job. I was going to be working on my creative projects. I was going to be putting personal events together. I was going to be working on my music. I was going to be doing video editing, photography, all the things that make me me. Because I don't think a job defines me. I've never felt that way, and I've never wanted to be that person, ever. Doesn't even interest me. Doesn't even excite me at all. And from 2013 to 2022, I put a lot of importance and value into those things. In 2023, as I was going through the worst parts of my dad's illness, where he could no longer respond to me and he could no longer speak, and I was just going in and seeing him and watch him decline, like, little by little until ultimately his passing. The rest of 2023, I was in survival mode. So by default, I was like, I have to work, but I'm so checked out of everything else. My personal life, my passions and ambitions that I usually work on off the clock. I really just haven't been into those things. And this year, I never got back on track with that. There's a few things that I've done pertaining to the page in particular, pertaining to this YouTube page in particular, that have been more like passion projects in a way. But even those, when I was doing those things in 2022, when I first started, I had a lot more vigor to do those things. Like this whole uh, event that I just went to where I dressed up as Carl and all that stuff, I came up with that basically the day before and the day of. I put all that stuff together. It wasn't, and other times before that, I would spend months, weeks or months planning those things. So it's just like, there have been things that have come up that have been kind of cool, but it has not been my priority, and it has not been, I haven't had the same spark that I had before. So I said to myself this weekend, going into 2025, I need to get back to putting things on my schedule that are for me, things that other people don't put there, things that I enjoy, things that require my talents, my creativity, things that are just for my personal interests, and things that further my career, and not my career as in my 9 to 5 career. My career as in the things I really want to do and make a career out of those things. So that was why I made that first step of getting that resume together, because one big thing that I think it would help me to get back on track mentally is to take that thing, that variable, which is that job that is stressing me so much, out of the equation, get something else. To tell you the truth, I don't have expectations of like, oh, the next one is going to be the one. It's just the mental space that I'm in of being in defense mode all the time, and just I'm in my car for so many hours a day, and it's just the stress of the driving and the stress of the clients and the stress of the management. It's just overwhelming, and I'm actively seeking to change that. And 2024, it was okay to just survive 2024, because people grieve and get through things and process things differently and in different times. Like for me, it took me the whole of half of 2023 and basically the whole of 2024. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I have not enjoyed this year. This year has been one of the least enjoyable years of my life, and one of the hardest years of my life also. But in order for that to change in 2025, it's not going to change itself. I have to actively put things in place to make sure that 2025 is a significantly better year, and I plan to do that. And that means that I'm going to be working on myself physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm going to be making plans instead of letting life just happen. Because life does not just happen to just suddenly get good. You have to make it and you have to create it. And that's what I plan to do. I was reigniting the spark. You know who helped me reignite the spark randomly and strangely? Cara Maria. And the reason why Cara Maria helped me reignite the spark. The first time I met her, when I brought her those stars that I made, she had such a strong reaction to that. She was like, "Oh my goodness, you guys saw the video." And she was like, "Did you make these?" And to me, that wasn't really anything to me. Like, I thought of that, and then I asked someone in a Facebook group that I'm in. It's like I asked somebody to make those stars for me. As a matter of fact, I wasn't planning to do it myself. And then they said, "Oh, you could do it yourself. Here's a link. You could buy. Here's the stars. Here's some like craft stars, and then you could just go to Michael's and get yourself some gold spray paint and just do it yourself." And I was like, I guess. I put that together and got such a strong reaction from her. I was so surprised. She was like, "Can you sign these?" And then she, in this cameo that I got her, she showed me where those stars are in her new place. So I was like, that's really cool. The second time I saw her though, at the end of the last cameo, she said, "The next time I see you, let's keep it going. Wear something with a star on it." So I was like, all right. My initial thought was, okay, I'm either just gonna find something on Amazon that has a star, or I'm going to think of something and get it like pressed on my clothes. Because you might not know, but I have created probably at least 30, 40 t-shirts over the years. Some of them with motivational messages, some of them with fitness logos and stuff. And some of them fitness logos. slogans, quotes, and things. Anyways, I make shirts regularly. I make at least, at the very least, maybe like 5 to 10 shirts a year every year. So eventually, what I decided to do, I was like, let me think of something. So I was like, one of the things that she said on the show was that she was talking to Rachel and she was like, we're Stargates. So I was like, okay, I want to put Stargate on the shirt. So the S, the T, the R, the G, the E, the T are going to be in one color. And then I want a gold star in the middle. So I made that first. I got that pressed on a sweatshirt. And then from there, I had my pants, and then I got 3 stars like the ones that I gave her pressed onto the side of the pants. And then, that's another thing. I got the 3 stars pressed onto the pants, and then I had the wig. The wig was actually from this disco party that we did for this Big Brother disco party. And then I just got a headband to put around it, like how her Carl character was on the show, and then the aviators. So I was like, I think this would be kind of a cool idea. And when she saw me with that, she was like, wow. She was like, wow. She took out her phone. She took a video. She was like, man, he's all carled out. She was like, this is amazing. This is so amazing. And then she told me afterwards, she said, it's like, you're so talented. She's like, your attention to detail and your creativity is impressive. Like, she was impressed by it, you know? And this is a person who is like an artsy person also. Does art and, photography, different things like that. So as she was telling me that, I was thinking to myself, the way people are impressed with the things that I do outside of my work setting and the infrequency in which I actually do those things. It's going to take a toll on anyone to just hear constantly, you're not good enough, you suck at this, you're not doing enough of this, you're not getting enough of this, you're not making enough numbers, this, blah, blah, blah. It stifles you. So it's important for me to get out of that environment, and also, even before I get out of the environment, to add more things into my ecosystem right now that require those muscles that I'm not using, metaphorically. I retired after getting a ridiculous write-up over Friday. Man, wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's even crazier. She was amazing. You took the time to do that. She appreciated it. Creative possibilities is exactly the key. Yeah, I mean, other things that I can think of before that. This thing that I made for Sam from the circle when I saw her. I mean, countless things that I've done at those events. And then also events of my own that I put together. They're not reality TV events, even though I still want to put one together. Business events that I put together, motivational speaking events that I have put together. Yeah, I mean, different things. Just different things that actually that I feel like are fulfilling things, and things that require my real skills and talents. Because there's no job that's going to do that for me. That's just real talk. And you said for your runs, so that's very cool. Yeah, the runs. Um, Somebody told me I should be selling all my shirts, and I actually put a few of my shirt designs on Zazzle, and none of them sold. So that was pretty discouraging because people are always like, I love that shirt. Where can I get one? I put it on Zazzle. I actually put the shirts. I put the Zazzle link on YouTube, as a matter of fact, and Facebook and other places. And everyone said, cool, I want one. But nobody bought one. So I just kind of left that one where it was. But that's neither here nor there. At this point. Doesn't allow me to attend. Oh, you mean like the reality TV events? I mean, I go to, what, maybe 2 to 3 a year. I'm considering going to the Survivor party, the Survivor finale party, which is next week, Wednesday. And if so, that would probably be my last thing of the year, and probably my last thing for months until whenever the Challenge All Stars 5 comes along, which will probably be next year sometime. So we'll see. Okay, y'all. Thanks for joining. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Drop a comment. And, and I'll talk to y'all later.